Maybe later he'll develop he'll develop another style. But as it is now,
Me and him didn't have a good relationship so much, but he talked to me.
Why did Miles Davis and Wynton Marsalis have such a big problem? What did Wynton do that made Miles so angry? These two jazz legends were very different. Miles was all about change and new sounds, while Wynton wanted to keep jazz traditional. One moment in the 1980s made Miles furious. He never forgave Wynton for it. What happened between them? Why did Miles stay mad for so long? Let's find out. Wynton Marsalis was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. He grew up in a nearby town called Kenner. He was the second of 6 sons in his family. His mother was Dolores Ferdinand Marsalis, and his father was Ellis Marsalis Jr. His father was a pianist and a music teacher.
There's my husband, who's a pianist and a composer and a teacher.
Wynton was named after a jazz pianist named Wynton Kelly. Music was a big part of his family. His older brother Branford and his younger brothers Jason and Delfiayo are also jazz musicians.
Wynton, who's a trumpet player, and Branford, who's a saxophone and reed player, and there's Delphia, a trombonist, and there's Jason, who was born a drummer.
One day, Wynton's father was sitting with famous trumpet players. Their names were Al Hurt, Miles Davis, and Clark Terry. His father joked that maybe Wynton should have a trumpet too. Al Hurt said he would give Wynton a trumpet. That was how Wynton got his first trumpet when he was 6 years old. Even though he had a trumpet at 6, he did not practice much. He only got serious about it when he was 12. He went to Benjamin Franklin High School. He also went to the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. In school, he learned classical music.
Martin Luther King told us that it was all right to go to school with whites. And I sent him to a school that was 98% white.
At home, he learned jazz from his father. He also played in different bands. He was in a marching band and a funk band. He even played in the New Orleans Civic Orchestra. He was the only black musician in that group. When Wynton was 14, he won a music contest. He got to play an important song by Joseph Haydn with the New Orleans Philharmonic. 2 years later, he played music by Bach. When he was 17, he got into a special music program called Tanglewood. He applied to 2 music schools, Juilliard and Northwestern. He got into both, but chose Juilliard. That was the start of his great music journey.
The real power of jazz and the innovation of jazz is that a group of people can come together and create art, improvised art.
Wynton Marsalis moved to New York City to study at the Juilliard School. He wanted to be a classical musician, but he left the school in 1981 without finishing his degree. He started playing with different bands, and that changed his mind about his career. In 1980, Marsalis toured Europe with the Art Blakey Band. This was a big moment in his life. He joined the Jazz Messengers, a famous jazz group led by Art Blakey. Playing with Blakey helped him decide to focus on jazz instead of classical music. He recorded his first album with Blakey and soon went on tour with another great musician, Herbie Hancock. After that, he signed a contract with Columbia Records and recorded his first solo album. Marsalis wanted to create his own jazz band. In 1982, he formed a quintet with his brother Branford Marsalis and other talented musicians. The group played together for a few years, but some members left to work with the singer Sting. Marsalis then started another band with new musicians. His band kept growing over the years, adding more members and creating a unique sound. Many great musicians influenced Marsalis. He learned from legends like Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, and Charlie Parker. He was also inspired by classical musicians like Maurice Andre and Adolphe Herseth. By studying these musicians, he developed his own powerful style. Besides being a musician, Marsalis is also a teacher and speaker. He gives lectures and teaches people about jazz. Some people call him the Leonard Bernstein of the 21st century because of his work in music education. He believes jazz is an important part of culture and history, and he wants to keep it alive for future generations. In 1987, Marsalis helped create a summer concert series at Lincoln Center in New York. The concerts were so successful that jazz at Lincoln Center became a permanent program. In 1996, it became an independent organization, just like the New York Philharmonic and the Metropolitan Opera. Marsalis became the artistic director and led the jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. The orchestra performs all over the world, teaches young musicians, and records music. In the 1980s, the jazz world had two of its biggest stars caught in a rivalry that everyone was talking about. Miles Davis was a legend, known for always changing and experimenting with music. Wynton Marsalis was quickly rising to fame. He had strong opinions about jazz and believed it should stay true to its roots. But their different views on jazz created a big feud between them. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was something that shook the jazz world and got fans talking.
Me and him didn't have a good relationship so much, but he talked to me. Some of the things he told me would be funny. They'd be good advice.
Miles was known for doing things his own way. He was bold and wasn't afraid to break musical rules. He loved trying new sounds and pushing the limits of jazz. Wynton, on the other hand, was just 23 when he became famous. He was from New Orleans, a city with a deep jazz history, and he grew up in a musical family. Wynton believed jazz should stay pure, meaning it should sound like the classic jazz from the past. This was very different from Miles' style, and it naturally created tension between the two musicians. Their record label, Columbia Records, wanted them to work together. They thought that if these two great musicians could be friends, it would be great for jazz and great for business. George Butler, who was the vice president of Columbia, really tried to bring them together. He even told Miles to call Wynton on his birthday. But Miles wasn't interested. He didn't feel the need to be close to Wynton. He also didn't like how much pressure the record label was putting on him to connect with the younger musician. He wanted to do things on his own terms, not because the label told him to. At the same time, Wynton was not afraid to criticize Miles. He had strong opinions and wasn't shy about sharing them. One thing he didn't like was Miles' style. Miles was known for wearing bold and colorful outfits that made him stand out. Wynton didn't like this and even called his clothes dresses. Miles did not take that lightly. For him, his fashion was part of his identity, just like his music. He felt that Wynton was being disrespectful. This added even more fuel to their rivalry. The tension between them reached its peak in 1986 at the Vancouver Jazz Festival. Wynton and his band were heading to Vancouver, and along the way, his bandmates started teasing him. They joked about whether Wynton was brave enough to confront Miles. They wondered if he would have the courage to stand up to the jazz legend. Wynton, feeling the pressure, finally agreed to do something bold. He decided to go on stage while Miles was performing, even though he wasn't invited. It was a risky move, and no one knew what would happen next. Miles was in the middle of his performance when Wynton suddenly walked onto the stage. The crowd was shocked. No one expected it, and neither did Miles. Wynton picked up his trumpet and started playing. Miles was not happy. He shook his head and told Wynton to leave. But Wynton kept playing, ignoring Miles's reaction. That was when Miles had enough. He completely stopped the music. The air was filled with tension. No one knew what would happen next. Eventually, Wynton got the message and walked off the stage. The audience was left in shock. Later, Miles explained that Wynton simply didn't belong in that performance. Miles's music was different from Wynton's traditional jazz style. To Miles, Wynton's interruption felt disrespectful, not like a tribute. But what really happened that night? Different people tell different versions of the story. Wynton remembers it one way, while others tell it differently. Wynton said that when he got onto the stage, Miles was playing an organ, and the music was so loud he couldn't hear what Miles said to him. He said that when the music stopped, Miles spoke to him but didn't curse at him. Wynton also remembered that Miles had trained as a boxer in the past, but he wasn't worried about a fight. He knew that if anything physical happened, it would make him look bad because Miles was older and not in good health. Wynton believed that people exaggerated the story and made it sound more dramatic than it really was. He also said that he never even got paid the $300 he was supposed to get for playing that night. However, another musician, Wallace Roney, tells a different version of the story. Roney was in the audience and saw everything. He said that Miles had just finished playing a solo when Wynton walked up and asked, "Can I sit in?" At first, Miles didn't hear him. When he finally realized what Wynton was asking, he firmly told him, "No, get off the stage." But Wynton didn't leave right away. Instead, he stayed there and then started playing a solo. That made Miles even angrier. He let Wynton play for just one round of the song before cutting it off. He stopped the music completely and, in strong words, told Wynton to leave. Some people in the audience even booed Miles. Wynton didn't argue. He just said, "Fine," used a curse word, and walked off the stage. The truth of what happened that night may be somewhere in between. Some people say Wynton was being disrespectful by crashing the performance. Others say Miles was too harsh in his reaction. But one thing is for sure, the rivalry between Miles Davis and Wynton Marsalis was one of the most talked about feuds in jazz history. Their differences in musical style and personality made it impossible for them to get along. Miles believed in change and breaking the rules, while Wynton believed in keeping jazz traditional. This wasn't just about music. It was about two different ways of thinking. Wynton has done many important things in music. He has played the trumpet for many years and is known for keeping jazz in its traditional style. He has won many awards and has worked on different projects, including TV programs, concerts, and even teaching young musicians. Marsalis believes in playing jazz the way it was originally created, and he does not like modern changes like electronic instruments in jazz. Because of his strong opinions, he has had many arguments with other musicians, but he has also gained a lot of respect for his work.
Not long ago, critics were saying jazz was dead, that no one wanted to hear it anymore. But then Marsalis and his trumpet came along and breathed new life back into the music.
Marsalis has been part of many TV programs that teach people about music. He was the host of a program called Marsalis on Music, which helped people understand jazz. Another program, Making the Music, was broadcast on National Public Radio. Both of these programs won important awards because they were so well done. Many people enjoyed watching and listening to them because Marsalis explained jazz in a simple and interesting way. He wanted people to know the history of jazz and why it is so special.
I could get together, I could go to Milwaukee tomorrow, and it'd be 3 musicians. I walk in the bar at 2:30 in the morning and say, "What you want to play, man? Let's play some blues." Well, all 4 of us are gonna start playing.
Marsalis has also worked with big companies like Apple. In 2005, he played at a special event where Apple introduced a new iMac computer and an iPod with video. His music was also used in an iPod commercial in 2006. This helped more people learn about his music and brought jazz to a younger audience. Even though jazz is often thought of as an old style of music, Marsalis has found ways to keep it alive by working with new technology and companies. Marsalis has taken on different roles in his career. In 2011, he became a cultural correspondent for CBS, which meant he talked about music and culture on television. He is also part of the Curiosity Stream Advisory Board, where he helps decide what kind of educational content should be made. He has been a teacher as well, leading the Juilliard Jazz Studies program. This is a very important position because Juilliard is one of the best music schools in the world. In 2015, he was given a special position at Cornell University, where he worked with students and shared his knowledge about music.
You know what self-discipline is? Self-discipline, I'm really good playing these fast stuff, but I'm terrible on slow. Let me practice slow.
Marsalis has also worked on music for movies. In 2019, he helped write and perform music for a film called Bolden. This movie was about Buddy Bolden, a musician from New Orleans who was one of the first jazz musicians. Marsalis has always been interested in the history of jazz, so working on this movie was important to him. He wanted people to know where jazz came from and who helped create it.
And I might say, do-do-do-lee, do-do, and I'll say, bo, bo, bo-do, bo-do-do-lee, bo-do, pra-pop, do-do, bo, bo-dee-do-lee, bo-do-do-do, bo-do-do-lee, bo-do-do, do-do, Everybody will just start comping and playing and listening.
Aside from performing and teaching, Marsalis has also written classical music. He worked with the Philadelphia Orchestra, which is one of the best orchestras in the world. They played a violin concerto he wrote in 2015, and in 2021, they performed a tuba concerto that he also composed. Even though he is mostly known for jazz, this shows that he has talent in many areas of music.
Thank you all very much.
Wynton has won many awards in his life. His talent has earned him many honors, both in the United States and other countries. People admire him for his skill in both jazz and classical music. His music has touched the hearts of many people, and his hard work has been recognized with important awards. One of his biggest achievements was winning Grammy Awards in both jazz and classical music in the same year. This happened when he was just 22 years old. This made him the only musician to win in both categories at the same time. He continued to win more awards in the following years, proving that his talent was truly special. After releasing his first album in 1982, Marsalis became very popular. He was named Musician of the Year by Downbeat magazine. He also won Best Trumpeter and Album of the Year. His success continued for many years, and in 2017, he was inducted into the Downbeat Hall of Fame. This was a great honor because he was one of the youngest musicians to receive it. In 1997, Marsalis made history again. He became the first jazz musician to win the Pulitzer Prize for music. This award is usually given to classical music or opera, but Marsalis' work was so powerful that it was recognized in a special way. His piece, Blood on the Fields, told a deep and emotional story, and many people praised it. A music expert, Zaran Mekta, told Marsalis that his music was inspiring and that famous jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong would be proud of him. Marsalis has also been recognized by the United States government. He received the National Medal of Arts and the National Humanities Medal. These are some of the highest honors an artist can receive. He was also named an NEA Jazz Master, which is a great recognition for jazz musicians. In 2001, the United Nations made him a Messenger of Peace for his contributions to music and culture. His music is loved all over the world. About 7 million copies of his recordings have been sold. He has performed in 30 countries and on every continent except Antarctica. His influence in music is global, and many people admire his work. Outside the U.S., he has been honored in different countries. He won the Dutch Edison Award and the French Grand Prix du Disque. The city of Vitoria, Spain, gave him a gold medal. Britain's Royal Academy of Music made him an honorary member. The French Ministry of Culture made him a Knight in the Order of Arts and Literature. In 2008, he received France's highest honor, the Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. In 2023, he won the Premium Imperial, a prestigious international award for artists. Marsalis has also received honorary degrees from many universities, including Harvard, Princeton, and the University of Michigan. These degrees recognize his impact on music and education. His influence in jazz and classical music is undeniable, and his achievements continue to inspire new generations of musicians.
When you take the history of Afro-American music, what we ended up doing when we got to hip-hop and the way we used our language and disrespected women, disrespected ourselves is an international embarrassment.
Wynton recently made comments about rap music that upset a lot of people. In an interview, he said that rap music is more damaging than a statue of Robert E. Lee. Many people were angry and disagreed with him. After the backlash, Marsalis wrote a long statement on Facebook. He did not take back what he said or apologize. Instead, he explained what he meant. He said that he was only talking about some rap music, not all of it. He also said that Robert E. Lee lost the Civil War, so his influence is not strong today. But rap music is still powerful in modern culture, and people are still debating its impact. Marsalis explained that when he makes a general statement, he does not mean all rap music. He also said he is not an expert in any kind of music, including jazz, but he has the right to share his opinion. He believes that some rap music is vulgar and harmful. He has felt this way since the 1980s and has spoken about it before.
It is an embarrassment, and we should not, as many users of the word, but the majority of those recordings are not using it in any type of powerful way. It's shameful.
Marsalis also mentioned that some rappers themselves have said that the music industry pressures them to include violent and materialistic content. He believes this type of music promotes negative stereotypes about Black people. He asked how someone can love Black people but also support music that portrays them in a bad way. He compared it to people paying to go on a safari to watch hippos, saying that just because people consume something does not mean they respect it. He also said that everyone should have the right to express their opinion. He compared it to how President George W. Bush told people after 9/11 that they were either with us or against us. Marsalis believes that in a free country, people should be able to discuss and debate without being forced to agree. Marsalis welcomed disagreement. He said he was not attacking any individual person. Instead, he was making general observations about certain types of music. He also said that he has not listened to all rap music, so he cannot judge every single song. However, he believes it is fair to question why explicit content is so common in popular music. He said this is a concern for parents and anyone who cares about culture. He criticized what he called pornographic products and minstrel show ghetto routines in some rap music. He said that people choose to listen to this type of music, and he accepts that. However, he will continue to speak out against it. He believes he has the right to express his opinion, just as others have the right to enjoy this music. Marsalis also spoke about the controversy over Confederate statues like those of Robert E. Lee. He said that these statues represent a painful past, and many people want them removed. However, he found it ironic that some of the same people who want Confederate statues taken down also defend rap music that promotes negative stereotypes. He believes that while Confederate statues can be removed, harmful music remains popular because it makes money for the industry.